All right. Happy Friday, everybody. Good to see everyone that is here today in the audience. Little technical difficulties on a Friday morning. Maybe it's just the world and what is happening around us. I don't know. We'll see. But for those guys that are new onto the channel or maybe new into the organization, first time watching, we launched this Clear channel 3 years ago, roughly. The whole goal is to help change the world one leader at a time. And by providing, an avenue, a location where anyone can watch this channel, watch all the entrepreneurs that we bring on from different industries. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, we have over 100 videos, tons of entrepreneurs, athletes, professionals, and rising stars in different industries. So today, and then every so often, I jump on and provide some content that I feel can add some value. So today I'm going to jump right in. We're going to cover training. I know a lot of people that are watching the channel are in our industry, in sales and in leadership. And then there's a few that are not. But I've had a lot of questions in the last few weeks as I've traveled and coached a bunch of people around training. So I'm going to give you guys 5 tips around training. And then at the end, I'm just going to spitball about life a little bit. So when it comes to training, if you want to be a great trainer, there's a quote that I love talking about. The quote is, "Your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying." Your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. And when being a great trainer or mentor or coach for someone, communication is key. Communication is key. Now, when it gets to when I want to talk about the tips, so the first tip I have for you guys in regards to training actually has nothing to do with training, but impacts training big time. So tip number 1, if you want to be a great trainer or great at training or passing on knowledge, is hire the right person. How easy is it to train someone who already has a ton of skill sets and transferable skills in the industry that you're working in? It's easy, right? Taking someone that has experience, has, good confidence, good people skills, maybe has the skill sets in the industry and the opportunity and the craft, whatever you're training for. But it's a lot easier to train people when you hire the right person. And in my eyes, there's 3 types of people in the workforce. Number 1 is somebody who just shows up. And they think by showing up to a job, and unfortunately that's all they get is a job, just over broke, is they actually just hang out and they're happy. And again, there's nothing wrong with these people. There's people that I've associated with in my past and currently do that have jobs, and they are job, right? Just over broke. And unfortunately, that's the world they're always going to be in until this changes, right? And then number 2, another type of person in the workforce is when they start in an opportunity or they work in an opportunity, they take ownership of things. They start looking around, they ask questions, they want to get ahead. They're like really curious about growing. They're really curious about, why do we do this? Why do we do that? And they're actively trying to, get better at their craft, right? And then the third type of person in the in a team or organization or in a that's hired is somebody I call a game changer. And a game changer is someone that comes in and their work ethic is extremely high. Their humbleness, their ego is in their back pocket, and they're incredibly, they have this understanding that, hey, yeah, I may have some good skills. Yeah, I may have some things I can bring to this opportunity, but they're so humble about it. And they kind of like, yeah, I'm still learning. I got to learn that. They kind of pawn on. They're like, yeah, I'm not as good as maybe you think I am. But then they know subtly over time as they get better, and their work ethic is so high that they learn the new craft really quickly, right? And yes, they'll have their bumps and bruises or whatever, but they're the type of person where, like in our business, we tell people by Thursday they should have their pitch down. And it's like perfect. And they're actually on like a 3rd day training, they're actually a 5th day training. Or on like a 5th day, they're actually like a 10th day. And then after 2 weeks of doing, what we do, people are like, man, how long have you been doing this? They're like, 2 weeks. I'm like, really? Like customers like, really? Only 2 weeks? And they're blown away that they have, that they have this much skill set in a short period of time. So number 1, when it comes to training, Actually, again, before you even train someone, hire the right person, and training will be a lot easier. Number two is 90% is example, 10% is actual training. And so, what I mean by that is the more excited you are as a trainer in whatever it is you are training, the more excited someone is to learn. And at the end of a good training day, you are going to be, as a trainer, if you do it right, emotionally, physically, all that stuff, you're going to be exhausted because you kind of left it all out on the table. You left it all out in the field, right? It's something where you're so enthusiastic that the person that is new and uncomfortable because they're learning new things, they just get excited because naturally you're excited. And also from the trainee perspective, the day of training, they like look up, they get into work, they do whatever, and the day of training, it like goes like that. It's like really fast. And like, oh my God, it's already 5 o'clock, it's already 6 o'clock, it's already whatever, and the day is over because they're having so much fun learning. They're having so much fun getting involved in whatever you're training. The day flies by. The day flies by. So number two is 90% example. You got to be excited about training and mentoring people. And again, it is exhausting in a way to be a trainer. And trust me, if you do it that way, you're doing it right. Number three, tips on training is you got to understand that training is actually quite boring. So training is quite boring. It's where, a trainee is going to hear you say the same thing over and over and over and over, right? So it's not something that it's going to change much. It's going to be repetitive. You're going to, ask them to, say things a certain way or do things a certain way. And they're going to have to practice and they're going to mess up. And then, we're going to start again. And a good tip with training some, especially if you're in a sales type of business like we're in, to split up any type of conversation or pitch or presentation, instead of doing the entire pitch all at once and making somebody try to learn that, break it up into small pieces, right? So there's like an introduction. Okay, there's only one line here. You take this one line for the first 5 conversations. Then the second piece of it, take that piece for the next 5. Then the third piece, and then you kind of build on like first grade, second grade, third grade, and then all of a sudden after an hour or two, you have this whole thing down, as opposed to trying to get the whole thing down right off the bat. Because what that does, and you're doing it simple and repetitive, what happens is you build people's confidence that way. If you try to get 3, 4, 5, 6 lines, 10 lines in a presentation or whatever things you got to say all done at once, you're more likely to not get it all done than you are to get one line at one time, 2 lines. All right, now we got the third one. Now we got the fourth one. You're more likely to get that all down and to build people's confidence as opposed to breaking someone's confidence. And again, when it comes to training, it is kind of boring, but you got to make it exciting. And I would also stay away from, while you're training somebody, anything in your mind that comes about when you say things internally or you say things you're training. If you ever find yourself saying, normally I wouldn't do this, but normally I wouldn't blah, 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 but you're screwing yourself up if you say that and you're training somebody. If you normally don't do it, then don't do it. Stick to the plan. Stick to what you know is the right thing to do. So that's number three is being a great trainer is boring. Number four is it's vital to have checklists. It's vital to have schedules. It's vital to have a plan where again, a great trainee can have a roadmap on what they're going to learn on what day. From a trainer perspective, it's easy to kind of fit people into different role. Day 1, day 4, day 10, second week, whatever. It's easy to kind of have people fill in roles if things change a little bit when you have a roadmap and a checklist. Now, again, the key point on a trainer perspective, as long as you have those things, the key point is actually doing it, actually sticking to the plan. On day 4, we focus on this. On day 6, we focus on this. And what happens is, there's an old saying in a quote called inspect what you expect, right? So as a coach, as I manage a ton of people and lead a bunch of people in these roles, I then check in with new staff. I then check in with someone who's being trained. And I just simply ask questions around these schedules and modules and trainings and checklists we have. Because what that does is that just tells me if the trainer is sticking to the plan, right? And again, it's not difficult to train people if there's a bit of a strategy, a bit of a plan, a bit of a checklist, right? Now, but again, back to point three, it is boring in a way to kind of take 10 minutes to go through a checklist and really check it off and do the things or whatever. But super, super important to stick to the schedules and hold people accountable to those checklists. And fifth, but not, fifth, the last but not least, the only way to get great at training people is to actually train people a lot. I can remember just in my younger years of developing and coaching and training salespeople. As a business, I wasn't the best. I wasn't the best trainee. I'm sorry, I wasn't the best trainer of trainees. My first group of trainees absolutely sucked, and it wasn't because of them, putting the effort and everything else. It was because I was young at training. I was young at mentorship. I was young at developing others. Speed it up. 20 some years later, you would be good at training at this point too, right? I've had a lot of practice, a lot of practice. So just remember that the best way to get great at anything, training, sales, business, relationships, life, is to have a lot of chances of doing whatever you're doing. And the key is, if something doesn't work out for a trainee, something doesn't work out in a training capacity for someone involved, then again, you got to put your ego back to the kind of the first point, or the second point is you got to put your ego in your back pocket and you got to ask questions and learn from things. All right, so this didn't work out. Okay, well, can I just get some feedback? What did you like about my training? What didn't you like about my training? What are some things I could have done differently to help in this process? Talk to people that are in roles that you want to be in. Talk to people that have trained a ton of people and get feedback. And hey, I had these scenarios. I had this conversation. I'm curious, how would you have had this conversation? How would you have responded to this situation? Right. But when you get perspective, and I can tell you, I've been doing this a long time training people. I take a ton of pride in my own humble mindset towards learning business. I know there's an old saying again that you got to be careful who you take advice from, but I would highly encourage you to take advice from people if you want to get to a role or a position where you're a great trainer or great at whatever. You should ask yourself who it is. It's one of the best at that in your company, in your organization, or whatever, and sit in front of them, ask questions, be a student, get on conference calls, get on, put yourself in the room with people that are amazing at whatever it is that you want to learn. So again, 5 tips for training today if you want to get better at it in whatever industry you're in. Number one, listen, when you were a great recruiter, again, in any organization, if you hire talented people, it's a lot easier to train people when you hire right. Number two, training, a majority of what you do is your example and how excited you are about mentoring people. Number three, the actual day-to-day repetition of things is somewhat boring, but you got to kind of knock it out and work on things, law of averages. Number four, having a schedule or a checklist is vital to hold people accountable. And then last but not least, as a trainer, if you want to get great at anything, just like in training, you have to do it a lot. So I'm going to transition a little bit, and I know we started a bit late today, but I just wanted to point out some things that are going on in the world. I think it's kind of some news that I don't know if everybody pays attention to, but I know I got a phone call last night from a buddy of mine who's in the car business. And for those of us that are in Michigan, you may have noticed what happened last night at midnight, and is happening currently right now and across Michigan and other places in the country. But the unions, the UAW, just went on strike, and all three major companies, car companies, from Ford to GM and some of the big brands that out there. And they went on strike because they want a 40% increase in comp for making cars. And so currently, I think there is something like 28,000 people went on strike, but they're threatening to have 300,000 people go on strike. And it's very interesting because in a conversation I had with a friend of mine and people that are in the industry, they're making some moves because they're getting kind of nervous. The world of artificial intelligence is upon us. This has actually already impacted other industries, like the acting world. I have very close family. My wife's parents are in the acting business, and they were telling me last night because they're in town about how the Screen Actors Guild has been on strike for a period of time because AI is causing a lot of challenges with the industry. They no longer need people physically to do certain things in the car business, in the acting business, because AI is really driving a kind of a new world. And I'll tell you, a few weeks ago, I was out for a birthday party and some friends with my little ones, and there's a restaurant here locally, a little gaming place that we've gone to, and there was literally a robot that came from the kitchen in the back and kind of came around and rolled up on us and had our food on it. And then the one guy that was working the entire restaurant, bartender and everything, came over, grabbed our food, put it on, and we just kind of watched it. And we asked the guy, "So how long you guys had this?" And he said, "A couple weeks." And I was like, "Huh." He goes, "Yeah, unfortunately, some people lost their positions because of it." And I was like, "Oh, holy smokes." And I thought about it, how many people were actually working there the last time I was there. Well, now there's a robot that takes the food from the back and brings it out to us. So there's a few servers, unfortunately, in that business that no longer work there because a robot is now doing the job. And I'll tell you, this whole thing with the car business, they said this morning in the news that if it goes for 10 days, it's going to cost the US economy $5 billion. Because literally, there's no cars being made in some of the plants today because of this strike. So I don't know, just wanted to share, keep you guys up to date on the world. I know we're in a business that's that people oriented, that in sales, where the idea of artificial intelligence, and it's going to only help us kind of get better at the things that we do behind the scenes, but the people piece is irreplaceable. And so I'm incredibly grateful that 15, 20 years ago, out of gut feel, I stuck around to industry, into this industry, and things obviously have gone well. And then last thing I'll talk to you about, and just kind of a funny thing, a friend of mine here in the office, John and I were texting this morning. Again, I don't know if you're paying attention to the world, but apparently in the last couple of months, there's been some extraterrestrials that people have been talking about. And this week in Mexico, there's some people standing before the Congress in Mexico saying that they have bodies from Peru or wherever that they found, and there's pictures of them, and there's all this stuff about the extraterrestrials and the UFOs. And here in the U.S., a month or two ago, there's some people in front of Congress talking about how there is secret groups that the government created to kind of pay attention to this stuff. And listen, I don't know. I just thought it was very interesting for anyone that's young or anyone that doesn't pay attention to stuff. Maybe it's me just dreaming a little bit, but there's the UFOs are among us, I guess. But I wanted to share that. I think as a kid, I remember my father had a telescope, and we used to go outside and clear nights and stuff, and he would look through the telescope and explain to me different places and different planets and different things. And just I think what the message I wanted to share today around that is like is about life, and is about being on this planet. And I've noticed that things go very quickly. I can remember just yesterday that I was graduating college. September 11th happening this week. I remember that day was my career fair day at Penn State, the day I thought I was going to find a position. And a lot of things went down. It was my one day that my soccer coach gave me off from practice, and obviously some things happened. I was putting my own one suit on that I owned at the time. I turned on the TV, and I actually saw one of the planes hit the buildings in New York. And I'll tell you, life happens quickly. I remember I got a very close friend of mine today, this weekend's getting married, and I sent her a message, and I was like, these moments in our lives where some incredible things happen and some not so incredible things happen. I always try to breathe, and I always try to take it in, because Yeah, I remember like yesterday, back in 2011, the day when I married my wife, and the day that we decided to kind of take things to the next level. And I remember my kids were born, and there's just so many moments that happen. But life happens quickly, and trust me when I tell you, when if you're thinking long term, and that's the key, is to think long term, and create the freedoms that you want in your life. And I don't know, the news about the UFOs and whatever just makes you think we're all just trying to do our best and trying to be great and on this planet. But it'd be kind of neat in our lifetime if we actually figure out if that shit is actually real or not. So, anyways, I just wanted to share that. But happy Friday! Hope everybody's well. You guys have a great weekend. Anybody that wants, to kill the world of wireless, iPhone 15 is launching today. That's a good news in our world because of all the things we do. But you guys have a great weekend. Thanks for jumping on. You can find us on the Instagrams, the TikToks, and all these other places. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Pass it on, share it with others. Again, our whole mission on the channel is to help change the world one leader at a time. You guys have an amazing day. See you guys.